welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss a ray of hope that has started to emerge in the state of Manipur. Manipur, we know, has been burning since almost 2 years, and thanks to the efforts of the central as well as the state government, that things have started to calm down. Now we do have evidences of farming being carried out by Meiteis and Cookies hand in hand, side by side, and the Meiteis as well as Cookies are even sharing waters to fulfill their agricultural needs. So there has started to emerge a sense of hope in the entire region of this valley and hill state of Manipur. But before we delve into what are the rehabilitation plans and revising about what were the reasons for that emergence of large scale conflict for existing for a period of two years, killing more than 250-300 people and leading to rehabilitation and shifting out of more than 70,000 people from entire state of Manipur. Before we delve into these reasons and factors and solutions, we have a quick update. The update is regarding the starting up of our new batches that is coming up in the 9th and 11th of August. These classes can be joined online as well as offline and with a combination of these two. One thing that is very specific to Legacy IAS Academy is the small batch size, which ensures that the faculties are having direct relationship with more or less every candidate. The candidates can also feel free because of the class strength relatively low. The candidates can also freely interact and get their doubts cleared till the last extent, till the smallest doubt possible. But despite of this, if the doubts still remain, then we do have the option of a mentor, a full-time mentor which is available for clarifying all kinds of doubts with respect to answer writing, with respect to evaluation, how to begin answer writing, every basic needs, every basic mental and all kinds of doubts with respect to academics will be fulfilled, will be clarified at Legacy IAS Academy. Additionally, because just knowing is not sufficient, a regular revision of these concepts that you know, a regular test of these concepts is also required. So at the end of chapters, every chapter, we do have prelims as well as mains test series. Prelims test series will consist of some 2 and 3 tests which will ensure you to clarify whether you are confident with that particular topic or not. Additionally, whenever we carry out mains answer writing, we also give you a sample answer so that you will be able to align yourself and able to rectify what is considered to be a correct answer. Okay? So please don't be late. You can click on the link that is mentioned below in the description box or scan this QR code or call on the number that is mentioned here 96069000004 or 96069000005. Now, moving on to the core part of our discussion, that is the Manipur rehabilitation. This is obviously a very sigh of relief for not only just Manipur but for entire Northeast, rather for the complete country itself. Because we have known some of the worst humanitarian crisis with respect to, let's say, riot victims, rape victims that has been reported from Manipur from past 2 years. The 2 major communities which are inhabitant in Manipur, whose ethnicity we will be studying in today's class, these 2 communities were in conflict with each other for some of the dissatisfaction that was present in both the communities. This dissatisfaction has been narrowed down, has been lowered, and things have calmed down. And thus, as we discussed, with the efforts of the central and the state government, Meitei families and the Cookie families who are residing outside the state have agreed to come back to their homeland. This rehabilitation program will be carried out in 3 phases. As we discussed, there are 70,000 population people who have to be rehabilitated, and of course not everybody will be ready to get rehabilitated. So this will be carried out in a phase-wise manner. The first phase, which will be starting at the end of this month itself, the second phase will begin at the beginning of October, and the third phase will begin with December. In these 3 phases, government is planning to carry out support through 3 categories. The first category, under the first category, will be coming those people whose homes have been completely destroyed and shattered. Since they do not have a home at all, So they will be given funds. This is approximately expected to be 7,000 people. They will be given funds in two batches, that is 1.7 lakh and 1.3 lakh. That is a total of 3 lakhs. 3 lakhs of sum of money will be granted to each family, each such family whose homes have been destroyed, so that they are able to reconstruct the house and restart their financial processes. The second category of people will be approximately again 7 to 8,000 population whose homes have not been destroyed. But because they do not have a proper financial support to restart their life, livelihood ki kami hai. So what the government will do, they will be providing them with financial assistance only for restarting. This amount will not be as high as 3 lakhs. The third category is that set of population who will not be able to come back to their homeland because it is largely dominated, as of now also dominated by certain tribal groups. This consists of three major areas, that is More, Churchandpur and Kangpoki. These three districts, we cannot expect the restoration to take place even after December. This is that set of population which is, we cannot expect them to resettle back. So for them, there will be a makeshift house which will be created. Okay? Now, talking about why this, or talking about this was a solution, a happy solution. So far it is expected that the things will narrow down, calm down over a period of time. But taking a quick tour of why all of this started, there were two principal reasons. The first principal reason was delimitation process that was expected to be carried out in the state of Manipur. Delimitation process mein, the solution that whatever the population census report had come up was not agreed by the hill tribes as well as the valley tribes. If we talk about the districts in Manipur, there are approximately 13 districts in Manipur, but this is largely categorized as the valley districts and the hill districts. The valleys are largely dominated by Meiteis, the hill districts are largely dominated by Kuki, Zomi and Naga. So there are several tribes who are living in the hilly areas, but we do have only Meiteis, which is largely Hindu dominated community who are living in the valley region. So from here onwards, we will be covering them as Meiteis who are living in valleys and Kuki, Naga, Zo who are living in the hilly areas. Talking about them, they were having the problem issues with delimitation. As we discussed, both these communities, be it the hill tribes or the valley population, both of them were not happy with the delimitation output, the process. The population census ki reports, they were not happy. The Kuki, Zomi and Naga, this community had stated that there is 40% increase in their population, which is not reflected in the population, in the delimitation that you have carried out. Plus, despite of this much increase, despite of this 40% increase in population, we are not having sufficient amount of MLA representatives. On the other hand, Meiteis were stating that their population distribution has not been properly projected in the Delimitation Commission's report. So this was one point of contention between Kukis and Meiteis, and another major point of contention, I would call this as the last nail on coffin, that Meiteis have been demanding for a status of scheduled tribe for a very long period of time. And 2023 May, there was a proposal from the state government that Meiteis should be granted. It was not finally granted. There was a proposal from the state government that Meiteis should be granted the ST status. Now, why is government asking for or ready to grant ST status to Meiteis? That Kukis interpret that this is largely because they have a greater representation in the government. The total number of MLAs that are coming from Meitei population is way higher, and that is why Kukis are interpreting that the government is standing in favor of that population. On the other hand, if we talk about the viewpoint of Meiteis, why is Meiteis demanding scheduled tribe status? That was largely because when Manipur was integrated, or I should call this as before Manipur was integrated with the mainland India, Kukis were actually given the tribal status itself. Post-integration, they were removed from the tribal list. Secondly, the Naga and Kuki movement, which were trying to actually assert their own presence. They were not interfering with Meiteis initially. So Nagas and Kukis ka jo movement chal raha tha, in which they were trying to strengthen themselves, largely because of the infiltration, immigration issues from nearby countries. They were trying to empower themselves, and that created a sense of insecurities amongst Meitei, and then they started demanding for ST status. Additionally, the free movement of Kuki Zomi people across Myanmar border also was expected to lead a change in the overall demography. Overall, the population of entire state might change in terms of a proportion of how much proportion is represented by cookies and how much proportion is represented by Meiteis. That change could have come up because cookies and Zomis were able to freely move across the Myanmar border. So, with these 3 points in mind, Meiteis had requested for an ST status and the government was ready to consider this, and in the midst of this, these violent crashes emerged. If we talk about the composition, about Meiteis and about the hill tribes, if we talk about Meiteis specifically, they live in valley which comprises of 10% of Manipur's landmass. तो पूरे मणिपुर का सिर्फ 10% में Meiteis हैं, which is the valley region. And this is a non-tribal population which is Hindus. This non-tribal population largely belongs to Hinduism. They form 64% of the state's population. Population का 10% land में 64% population was residing, and they have a 40 out of 60 MLAs from Manipur. So that is something very, very astonishing, because their overall population is very high, so that they have a greater representation. On the other hand, if we talk about cookies, hilly areas where overall the population is anyways less. So if the population was low, so that would lead to less number of MLAs. That might not have been the desired consequences as per cookies also. So that was a point of contention which was acting in terms of point of contention between Meiteis and cookies for a very long period of time. As we discussed, this population was Hindus and they have not been granted ST status so far. The point of contention, the point of dissatisfaction amongst Meiteis is they live in valley areas but they cannot buy a piece of land in hilly areas. On the other hand, the Kuki, Zomi, Naga community who are living in hilly areas, they could have bought a piece of land in the valley area. So that was a point of dissatisfaction amongst Meiteis. If we talk about the ethnic composition of the Kuki, Zomi and Naga community who are largely the hill tribes, this population is largely Christian. As we discussed, 64% of the state's population was living in this valley area. So obviously, the smaller set was living in the hilly areas. 35% of the recognized tribes have been living in this area. So it is not just one set of population who have inhabited the hilly areas of Manipur. Talking about the geographical area, if the valley was only 10%, so rest of the hilly areas was comprising of 90% of the total Manipur's area, and they had only 20 MLAs, which acted as a point of contention that they had a dissatisfaction, they were not having sufficient representation in the government. Plus, all kinds of, if we talk about the hill tribes, they were categorized as any Naga or Kuki tribe. They were largely Christians. On the other hand, Meiteis were largely Hindus, and they have ST status. As we also had, remember we have discussed this, that the population who were living in hilly areas were having a permission to buy a piece of land in valley. On the other hand, people who were living in valley were not having a right to buy a piece of land in hilly areas. So these slowly created a widened gap between the hill tribes of Naga, Zomi and Kuki communities and the valley tribes of Meiteis. And that slowly, when the government was ready to accept this fact, okay, let us initiate the procedure to grant ST status for Meiteis, then that acted as the final nail in the coffin, which led to the violent crashes. But however, thankfully things have calmed down and people have started to co-inhabit, although there are certain incidents here and there, one or two, across the states. For example, a villager some time back was killed. But overall, if we talk about the entire situation of how the things have moved on after the presidential rule, things have calmed down. Things have calmed down over a period of time, and now that the rehabilitation efforts have been stepped up, now the government is planning, the state government is planning that largely by December we are expecting to close down on all the rehabilitation centers, because people are ready now to move back to their homeland. With that, we come to the end of this topic. If you have any doubt, please do let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much and all the very best.